My brother didn't try to steal my inheritance by hiding a secret will or locking me out of a will reading. He tried to steal it by standing beside my work, smiling at investors, and letting them believe my resort was his family legacy to control. Then he threw away a cake meant for a 6-year-old girl because he thought she was a threat to blood. 3 days later, he arrived at my front gate with 20 guests for a fake investor weekend, not knowing I had the forged guarantee, the email trail, and the trust documents that proved exactly what he'd done. My name is Sarah. I'm 35, and I own Emerald Cove, a small luxury resort on the South Carolina coast, just outside Charleston. People hear resort and picture something that appeared fully formed, with white towels and champagne and rich people asking for late checkouts. But Emerald Cove used to be an old shrimp dock with warped boards, storm-damaged sheds, and marsh grass growing through the cracked concrete. The first time I walked the property, a blue heron was standing on what used to be the boat ramp like it owned the place. I'm an architect, and I saw something there. Raised cottages, metal roofs that could handle storms, oyster tabby walls, a dock rebuilt over the creek, live oaks wrapped in lights, a courtyard where you could hear the water even when you couldn't see it. My dad would have loved it. When he died, he didn't leave a fortune. There was a modest life insurance policy, his drafting table, and a note he'd written on the back of an old permit envelope. Build something that lasts. My brother Mark got the same amount of money I did. He used his to seed 3 business ideas that never became actual businesses. I used mine as the first deposit on the property, then spent 8 years begging banks, fixing permit problems, sleeping on office floors, and taking every loan in my own name. But once Emerald Cove started getting featured in wedding magazines, Mark started calling it our family property. At first, he said it with a smile. Come on, Sarah, Dad's money started it, it's part of the family story. My mother, Helen, always nodded like that was reasonable. I'd say, Dad left us both a beginning. I'm the one who built something with mine. And Mom would sigh. You don't have to make everything so cold. That was how she did it. She never screamed, she didn't need to. She could make a sentence sound like a prayer and a threat at the same time. Mark, on the other hand, was polished, charming, linen shirts, expensive sunglasses, a black SUV he definitely shouldn't have been able to afford. He knew how to shake hands and say things like relationship capital and legacy planning while standing in front of other people's achievements. To outsiders, he looked successful. Inside the family, we knew better. There were always late invoices, angry vendors, investors who didn't understand the vision, and credit cards that somehow stopped working at the worst times. Then I met David. David was a widower with a 6-year-old daughter named Lily. She had big brown eyes, a nervous habit of twisting her sleeves, and a serious opinion about every butterfly she saw. The first afternoon she spent at Emerald Cove, she sat in my office while I marked up a cottage renovation plan. I came back from a phone call and found tiny butterflies drawn in pencil along the roofline. She looked horrified. I'm sorry, she whispered. I can erase it. I didn't let her. I framed that sheet and hung it beside my dad's drafting table. I wasn't trying to replace Lily's mother. I need to be clear about that. But I loved her. Quietly at first, then completely. She made Emerald Cove feel less like the thing I survived, and more like something still growing. A month before my engagement party with David, I met with my estate attorney, Nina. I wasn't sick. I wasn't expecting drama. I just owned a valuable business and I was about to get married. I wanted everything clean. Nina helped me update my will and create a revocable living trust. Emerald Cove would stay protected as a business asset. David would be provided for if we married. And I created a separate education and future security trust for Lily, funded only if certain conditions happened. It wasn't some emotional giveaway. It was responsible planning. I told David. Then I told my mother because I thought if she understood the structure, she'd stop repeating Mark's version of reality. She sat at my kitchen island, staring at the trust summary like I'd handed her divorce papers. So Mark's boys get nothing? She asked. That's not what this says. But Lily does. Lily is going to be my family. Mom folded the paper carefully. Too carefully. Blood should matter, Sarah. It does. It's just not the only thing that matters. She gave me that tired look I'd seen my whole life. The one that said I was being difficult by refusing to disappear into someone else's needs. Mark is under pressure, she said. Mark is always under pressure. And you've always been the strong one. I hated that sentence. It sounded like praise, but it really meant, please keep absorbing whatever your brother breaks. 2 days later, Mark called me. Are you seriously writing another man's kid into Dad's legacy? I was in the laundry building checking tile samples with gulls screaming outside. It's not Dad's legacy, it's my business. He laughed softly, not loudly. That was worse. Sarah, you built Emerald Cove with family capital. I built it with loans, permits, risk, and 8 years of work. Sure, and Dad's money. You got Dad's money too. His voice tightened for half a second before he smoothed it out again. Look, I'm just saying this is going to look bad. You're not even married yet, and you're already shifting the future of the property away from actual grandchildren. Lily is 6. Exactly, he said. She doesn't even know what she's taking. I hung up. I should have canceled the engagement party right then, but I didn't. I told myself he was posturing. Mark had always known how to sound more powerful than he was. I thought once everyone was there and Lily was just Lily, small and sweet and nervous, he'd back off. I was wrong. The party was at Emerald Cove on a Saturday afternoon. The tide was low, the marsh smelled like salt and sun, and the string lights under the live oaks looked perfect. Lily wore a yellow dress with tiny embroidered butterflies on the sleeves. She kept asking David if she looked too much. He said, Bug, you look exactly right. The main cake was for the engagement, but I'd ordered a small cake just for Lily. White frosting, sugar butterflies, and the words, Welcome to our family, Lily. I wasn't planning some giant public announcement. I just wanted a quiet moment after the toast. About 20 minutes before that toast, Priya, my events manager, pulled me aside near the kitchen doors. Sarah, she said, keeping her voice low, where did you want the small cake staged? In the prep fridge. Her face changed. It's not there. We checked the fridge, the service table, and the event cart. A young server looked uncomfortable and finally said, Your brother said you wanted it moved. My brother? He said you didn't want it brought out yet. He had the box. I found Mark outside near the service path, beside the trash enclosure. He was brushing powdered sugar from his cuff. The bakery box was in the dumpster. The lid had fallen open, and one crushed blue butterfly was stuck to the cardboard. Where's Lily's cake? I asked, though I was looking right at it. Mark glanced toward the lawn, making sure no guests were close enough to hear. Sarah, don't do this out here. Did you tell my staff I asked you to move it? He gave me a small, disappointed smile, like I had failed some maturity test. You were about to put another man's child in the middle of Dad's legacy in front of everyone. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is for his actual grandchildren? Behind me, Lily made a tiny sound. She was standing in the doorway with David's mother, holding the hem of her dress. Her eyes were fixed on the box. Did I do something wrong? She asked. David came up behind her. His face changed so fast it scared me. I touched his arm before he could step toward Mark. Mark lowered his voice. See? This is why kids shouldn't be dragged into adult financial decisions. She's a child, I said. She's a symbol, he snapped. Then he caught himself, smoothed his expression, looked over my shoulder like he'd noticed witnesses. My mother appeared beside him. I still don't know how long she'd been standing there. Mom, I said, you watched him do this? She didn't look at Lily. Not once. Sarah, sweetheart, you're turning a misunderstanding into a public scene. He lied to my staff and threw away a 6-year-old's cake. It was inappropriate, Mom said. You made Mark feel erased from his own family. David let out this short laugh, but there was no humor in it. Mom looked offended. I'm trying to keep peace. No, I said. You're trying to keep Mark comfortable. Her mouth tightened. You used to care about family. The party kept going because I didn't know how to stop it without hurting Lily more. I gave a toast I barely remember. Mark stood near the bar, charming a couple from Savannah who owned boutique hotels. From 10 feet away, he looked relaxed, even gracious. That night, after everyone left, Lily asked David if she was still allowed to come to Emerald Cove. That question sat in my chest like a stone. The next morning, Mark posted a photo from the party. He cropped out David and Lily. The caption said, "Nothing like celebrating legacy at the place our dad inspired." I didn't comment. Then I opened the reservation dashboard. 20 villas had been blocked for Wednesday through Saturday under something labeled Founder Family Preview Weekend. ocean views, spa credits, dinner tasting, dock cocktail hour. The internal note read, authorized by Sarah Whitman. I authorized nothing. The guest list included 2 investors, 3 of Mark's business contacts, his girlfriend Tessa's parents, and several relatives who liked free things enough not to ask questions. I called Mark. Why are there 20 villas blocked under my name? He sounded almost amused. It's a relationship weekend. At my resort? At our family's resort, if we're being honest. No, we're not being dishonest just because you prefer it. His tone cooled. I already invited people. These are serious contacts, Sarah. Cancel it. I can't. You mean you won't? I mean you'll embarrass yourself if you turn away investors at your own gate over family drama. There it was. The trap. If I let them in, he got to perform ownership. If I blocked them, I looked unstable and petty in front of people who mattered in my industry. Before I could answer, he added, Dad would have wanted us working together. I said, Dad would have wanted you to stop standing next to someone else's work and calling it yours. He hung up first. That afternoon, Priya brought me a manila envelope that had been dropped at accounting. It has your name on it, she said, but something feels weird. Inside was a personal guarantee agreement stating Emerald Cove Resort, LLC, would back a $180,000 credit line for Mark's company. My signature was on the last page. It was close. Too close. But I knew my own hand. The S was copied, the date format was wrong, and the email listed for authorization had 1 extra dot in it, like someone had made a fake Gmail account meant to look like mine. I stared at the page for a long time. Then I called Nina. She told me not to confront him yet. Preserve the records, she said. If he thinks you know everything, he may try to fix the trail. So I got quiet. IT pulled access logs. The fake reservation block came from an old vendor portal Mark had once used when he helped organize a charity golf event 2 years earlier. The lender sent a DocuSign audit certificate. The phone verification number was Mark's. The IP address matched his office building. And then I found the forwarded email. My mother had forwarded Mark the trust summary I'd sent her. Her message said, Your sister is making emotional decisions. Talk to her before she ruins this family. Not be careful. Not don't use this. Just an invitation. I sat in my office under the framed butterfly drawing and felt something in me settle into place. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was family betrayal with a paper trail. Monday and Tuesday, I canceled the fake reservation block, disabled Mark's old portal access, changed every family gate code, notified the lender through Nina that the guarantee was disputed and unauthorized, and instructed security not to admit any group claiming family privilege. Mom called Tuesday night. Your brother says you're humiliating him. He forged my signature. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious document. He was trying to save his company. With my business. He felt cornered. He cornered himself. She went quiet, then said, You're punishing him because he reminded you that blood matters. No, I said. I'm protecting a child because everyone else in this family decided blood mattered more than decency. Mom's voice got soft. That was always when she was most dangerous. You're going to lose us over this. No, I said. I'm going to stop paying to keep you. On Wednesday afternoon, Mark arrived at Emerald Cove like a man stepping into a movie he had written for himself. Black SUV, linen shirt, sunglasses, Tessa beside him in a cream dress. Behind them, rental cars full of people with luggage and expectations. I watched from the admin office camera feed with Priya beside me and Nina on speaker. At the gate, one of the investors looked up at the sign and said, Beautiful property. Mark smiled like he owned the tide. Family vision, he said. Sarah handles the design side. I handle relationships. Priya whispered, Oh, absolutely not. Luis, our security lead, asked for the reservation confirmation. Mark handed him a printed packet with our logo on it. Luis scanned it. I'm sorry, sir. These reservations were canceled as unauthorized. Mark chuckled for the audience. Try Sarah. She'll clear it up. Luis looked at him calmly. Ownership has already cleared it up. Mark looked straight at the gate camera and called me. Then he put me on speaker. Sarah, he said, warm and sharp at the same time. Can you tell your guard who I am? My hand was shaking, but my voice didn't. They know exactly who you are, Mark. That's why you're not coming in. The group went still. His smile stayed in place, but only barely. Don't make a business mistake because you're upset about family. This isn't a family disagreement, I said. This is an unauthorized reservation block, a disputed financial guarantee, and a false representation of ownership. One investor turned toward him. Disputed guarantee? Mark waved a hand. It's estate tension. You know how inheritance stories get. Everybody gets emotional. I said. There is no estate tension. There is no shared ownership. Emerald Cove Resort LLC is not backing your credit line, and you are not authorized to represent this property. Tessa looked at him. Mark, what credit line? He lowered his voice, forgetting he was still on speaker. Sarah is doing this because I questioned her secret will for the kid. Nina, still on speaker in my office, said quietly. That was useful. Louise turned the gatehouse monitor toward the group. I hadn't wanted theatrics, but I did want clarity. The screen showed the service hallway footage. Mark taking the white bakery box, Mark carrying it outside, Mark opening it, Mark reading, Welcome to our family, Lily. Mark dropping it into the trash while my mother stood beside him with her arms folded. Nobody spoke for a few seconds. Then Tessa said, That was for Lily? Mark's face hardened. The charm slipped. She was using that child to make a point. I said no. I was welcoming her. You were the one who saw a 6-year-old as a threat to money you didn't earn. One of the investors handed Mark's printed packet back. I'm out, he said. Another guest muttered, Did he say the rooms were comped? Mark turned red. Sarah, stop. I didn't raise my voice. Leave the property. Any further contact about Emerald Cove goes through council. That was the revenge story, if you want to call it that. No screaming, no violence, no dramatic courtroom scene. Just documents, boundaries, and Mark finally being seen in public without the polish. The fallout wasn't instant, but it was real. The lender froze his application. His investors backed away. I filed a civil claim for the costs tied to the unauthorized reservations, the audit, and the forged guarantee. Nina didn't promise fireworks. She promised paper, deadlines, and consequences. That was enough. Mark sent me a long email 3 days later. He wrote, I'm sorry you felt betrayed. Not, I'm sorry I betrayed you. He wrote, I was trying to protect Dad's legacy. Not, I lied about ownership. He wrote, Lily will understand when she's older. That one made me close the laptop. Mom came to Emerald Cove the following week. I met her in the lobby, not my office. She looked smaller than usual, but I knew better than to confuse small with harmless. You embarrassed your brother, she said. He embarrassed himself. You could have handled it privately. He made it public because he thought I'd be too ashamed to stop him. She looked out toward the marsh, where the wind was moving through the grass. You've become hard. No, I said. I've become unavailable. Her eyes filled with tears. You're choosing outsiders. I thought of Lily asking if she was still allowed at the resort. I thought of my dad's drafting table. I thought of 8 years of bank meetings and hurricane repairs and permits that made me cry in my truck. I'm choosing the people who don't treat love like a loophole, I said. Mom waited for me to soften. I didn't. She lost access to staff areas that day. No more gate code, no more financial information, no more just checking with accounting. If she wanted lunch at the restaurant, she could book like any other guest and behave like one. David and I postponed the wedding by 2 months, not because we were unsure, but because Lily needed quiet. The first time she came back to Emerald Cove, she walked into my office and looked at the framed plan with her butterflies on it. You kept it? She asked. Of course. Even though I drew on your work? I knelt beside her. You made it better. Later, the 3 of us sat on the dock with a small butterfly cake from the same bakery. No crowd, no speech, just paper plates, plastic forks, and the creek turning gold at sunset. Lily touched one sugar butterfly and asked, Is this one allowed? David looked away. I said, You are allowed here, always. I updated my trust again after that, not because of anger, because of clarity. Emerald Cove stays protected. David is provided for. Lily has safeguards for her future. Mark receives nothing from me. My mother has no control, no access, and no say. Some people will hear that and call me cold. Maybe they'd prefer the version of me who kept handing over pieces of her life so everyone else could call it peace. But a stolen inheritance doesn't always start with a fake signature at the bottom of a document. Sometimes it starts with someone repeating family property until other people believe it. Sometimes it starts with a mother calling manipulation love. Sometimes it starts with a charming man in a linen shirt standing in front of a building he didn't build, telling investors he handles relationships. There was no secret will. No dramatic will reading. No hidden box in an attic. Just a toxic family that thought blood gave them voting rights over my future. And if there was karma, it arrived as an audit log, a cancelled reservation block, and a gate that did not open. Emerald Cove is quieter now. Better. Lily still draws butterflies, and one of her drawings is tucked inside the trust binder behind the legal documents. My dad's note is framed above my desk. Build something that lasts. I think I finally understand what that means. It doesn't just mean buildings. It means boundaries. It means choosing who gets to stand inside the life you built. It means knowing the difference between inheritance and entitlement. So what would you have done if your brother forged your signature, used your business to impress investors, and treated a 6-year-old like she was stealing his future? Would you ever forgive him? And would you let your mother back in after she used family to justify everything? Comment your thoughts, because family drama and money always bring out strong opinions. Thank you for watching. If you want more inheritance stories, revenge stories, and family betrayal stories where karma comes through proof instead of shouting, please like and subscribe.